In April of 2017, I was close to finishing my first year of college and was planning to take summer courses. To avoid paying the expensive on-campus housing tuition for the summer, I searched for a place off of campus. I found a room that was only $200 a month, cheaper than the normal price in Merced, California. Being a broke college student, all I cared about was a cheap place to stay. When I checked out the place, there was a couple who was already living there, and they told me that they had just moved in. I will call the couple Salvador and Maria since they are Hispanics. They told me that they were UC Merced alumnus, and one current UCM senior will be sharing the room with me too. The apartment had 2 big bedrooms and it was fully furnished. It was located in a quiet neighborhood, clean, and gave me a cozy feeling. The place was walkable to the bus stop, which was necessary because I didn't have a car, so I deposited my money right away. 1 month later, the spring semester ended and the summer session was about to begin. My roommate, Joe, who I hadn't met, messaged me that we will be living together. However, he is doing session B, so he will move in on June 6th. My session starts on May 21st, so I moved in earlier than Joe did. Right when I moved in, I paid for my rent to Salvador and Maria. In total, there would be 4 of us living in that apartment. After moving in, I was exhausted and went to sleep early. I turned on my fan. It was over 100 degrees in Merced and closed my door. However, I did not lock it. The next morning, I woke up around 5 a.m. because I felt very hot. I noticed that it was hot because the fan was turned off. I found it weird because I was certain it was turned on before I went to sleep. I did not want to scare myself. I told myself that Salvador and Maria probably entered my room while I was asleep and turned it off to avoid a high electricity bill. As I was awake and lying in bed, the heat was irritating me. I told myself, screw it, I don't mind paying more. I locked the door, turned the fan back on, and went back to bed. I closed my eyes for about 5 minutes and was still awake. Suddenly, the fan automatically turned off. It sounded like someone pressed the off button. That was weird. Maybe my fan had been used for a year, so it's not working properly, I thought to myself, and tried not to think of anything scary. I forced myself to sleep in the blistering heat. While I was sleeping, I had a dream that ghosts were fighting me, and I couldn't fight back because I was too weak to hold my sword. I woke up around 10 a.m. with severe headaches. As a rising traditional shaman, I was worried because the dream happened when the sun had already risen. Do you know what the elders always say about dreams in the daylight? It's usually true. I was not scared throughout the day because I was occupied with things to do. As I unpacked and did my readings to prepare for class, I realized the day had already passed. It was 9 p.m. and I was hungry. I had rice but did not have any meat to go with it. It was too late to prepare for a dish, so I quickly boiled some meatballs. After the meatballs were ready, I smashed some Hmong peppers because eating just the meatballs would be too bland. By the way, the peppers are considered extremely spicy to many Hmong people who have tried it. After I finished making the peppers, the smell was very strong, and I could smell it throughout the kitchen. I rapidly ate my food in the living room because it was getting late. The living room was close to Salvador and Maria's room, so the smell was diffused throughout that area. When I was washing my dishes and facing the sink, I heard the noise of someone harshly running to the front door. In the apartment, when you enter the front door, there is a storage room right across, so you'd have to make a right to go to the living room and bedrooms. It sounded like somebody was running for their life. While the water was still running, I turned around and saw Salvador with his body facing the other side. I asked him if he was okay, and he quietly turned around to me with a serious face as if he was catching his breath. His face was pale, and his lips were the color of light purple. He looked so different, and my heart felt like it dropped. I was scared. Maria ran and asked Salvador if he was okay as he rushed to the storage room to put his head in there. I felt relieved seeing Maria there, but I didn't know how I felt about seeing Salvador's strange look. I cleaned my dishes as quickly as I could. When I was turning over to the other side of the sink to put my dishes in the cabinet, I saw a glance of Salvador using his fingers to write something on the front door. It was strange and suspicious. Was it the peppers that caused Salvador to suffer? What was in that storage room? Why was he writing on a door with his fingers? Why did his lips turn into a color I've never seen before in my entire life? These questions came into my mind when I was putting away my dishes. Do you know what they say about peppers? They say that ghosts are afraid of peppers. I didn't want to tell my parents that I was experiencing weird things because I just moved in. Of course, they would scold me by saying I wasted my deposit and rent money if I moved out. Despite all these strange things that happened, I told myself to be strong because I did not want to be scolded by my parents. I went to sleep and woke up around 10 a.m. on the next day with a similar dream. My headaches were getting worse. It felt like someone was stabbing my brains. I had never experienced anything like this before. I went to go use the bathroom and spit in the toilet as I cursed at the ghosts in my dream. I verbally called my spiritual guides to cut any monsters into 3 pieces if they didn't stop bothering me. I am a rising shaman, and these words were said without any incense, but I did whatever I could that would help me. After using the bathroom, I walked out and noticed the dream catchers that were all over the apartment. These dream catchers have always been there, but I did not notice them. It was weird. There were nearly 20 of them in the living room. I'd understand if it was about 4 or 5, but 20? Are you serious? I felt like I was blindfolded, that I did not notice how many were there. I also saw that everything was a representation of an owl. And I mean everything. The couches had pictures of owls. The furniture and decorations were of all owls. The soap holders, the tables had pictures of these things. Even the dishes had pictures of owls. Literally anything in the apartment. I was surprised that I did not see any of it within the past few days that I had moved in. It was a strange feeling because I knew the decorations were there, but I still didn't know that it was there simultaneously. It's so strange, right? Again, I felt blindfolded. Do you know what owls represent? It is often perceived as a death symbol. I swiftly went into my room and called my mom to see if they noticed anything when they were helping me move. She asked me why, and I told her everything I encountered. She told me that she noticed Salvador's face was a bit strange compared to a normal human. I sought for clarifications, and she explained that Salvador wasn't ugly, but he just gave her a vibe that intimidated her. My mom told me that I should not worry and that I was probably just overthinking things. I knew she was worried but didn't want to freak me out because she asked me to cut out my joss papers, aka spirit paper or money paper. As a rising shaman, I always carried joss papers because I would jump non-stop if I hadn't gone home and practiced for a while. I colored the papers in 3 colors that a well-known shaman once advised me. I didn't want to put it outside of the front door or the door to my room because I was scared that Salvador and Maria would ask. Instead, I taped it on the inside of the door to my room. This means that I could see the papers when I'm on the bed because it's facing me. At night, I slept peacefully and did not have any bad dreams or headaches. However, things changed when Joe moved in. My summer courses started and my days were mainly studying and watching movies to pass time. With the JOS papers, I stopped having bad dreams and slept peacefully for 2 weeks. When the days passed, my roommate, Joe, moved in. He was a nice guy and we got along well. Joe did not have class on Thursday and would leave in the middle of the morning on Thursday to his hometown. At first, I didn't find it weird, but after about 4 times, I thought it was quite abnormal. I asked myself, why was it so early in the middle of the night? Every time Joe left, the bad dreams and headaches came back. Regardless of what happened, I told myself I would live through the summer. I did not want to disappoint my parents. It was a wrong choice. One weekend, when Joe was gone, I was doing my dishes around 7 p.m. Salvador was in the living room. I had a small conversation with him as I was doing the dishes, but we ran out of things to talk about. A minute later, when I was putting the dishes away, I turned around and saw a cat at where he was sitting. A black cat. Its head was facing to the curtains. And no, I was not overthinking. I turned around again and saw Salvador facing the same direction as the cat. Hmong people believe that cats are either the kings and queens of witches. I got very scared. The place was definitely not safe to live in. My heart was throbbing as I quietly walked to my room to avoid Salvador noticing. It was the scariest moment in my life. Sweat was falling all over my body. I was shivering. I knew I needed to go stay somewhere for the night. I messaged a friend on Facebook that I needed a place to stay for the night. I did not tell him anything. He told me to go around 10 p.m. because that was when he was off work. He lived in a big apartment complex, so it was hard for the Uber driver to drop me off directly at his address. I went to his party once, but it was at night, so I kind of forgot how to get there. He suggested to meet at the office building. However, the haunted place followed me to my friend's apartment. Right when the driver got to the office, I saw a woman in a white gown standing in front of my friend. I knew he had really bad vision, so I thought he didn't see that lady. My heart dropped as I questioned her presence. This was when I asked myself what was going on in my life. The elders always say that when you are walking and see a ghost, you have to walk in the same direction to pass it. I was scared, but I walked right by that lady. I didn't look at the lady because I was exceedingly frightened, but her white gown was so bright that it stood out. I went with my friend to his place and slept peacefully there. I asked him if I could sleep at his place for 2 more days and told him about the situation. He told me that I could move in and stay in the living room, but I refused because I didn't want to be a burden to his roommates. That lady in the white gown continued to seek for me, though. Later on, I went back to stay at the scary place. I thought it was too complicated to move around. After 2 days of going back, the dreams and headaches were getting worse, so I finally made the decision to move to my friend's place. When I moved in with him, he told me that the Asian lady in the white gown came knocking at their door during nighttime to look for her child. My friend and his roommates were having a party with a lot of people, so they were not scared to open the door for us. She was endlessly crying and demanded that she find her child. She was strange and we have never seen her around before, he said. Right at that moment, I knew she was following me from the apartment. I cut the joss papers and put them on the front door of my friend's place. Once again, the papers protected me. After moving to his place, I stopped having bad dreams and headaches. 3 weeks later, I went to bike by myself. I forgot to mention that my friend's place is not too far from the haunted apartment. One day, when I was biking, a crow had attacked me. No matter the direction that I changed, it kept on following me. It followed me for about 10 minutes. The bird was purposely chasing and leading me to the direction of the apartment where Salvador and Maria lived. I got so scared and realized it had to do with that apartment. Luckily, I was wearing my Buddha's necklace. If you are Hmong Thai, then you understand the power of the Luang Pu's rock. I stopped biking and turned to the crow while I was holding the necklace against it. I called upon Luang Pu and his wife along with my ancestors for help. As soon as the crow saw the necklace, it weakly fell to the ground. I biked as fast as I could and turned around to watch what the crow was doing. Once it got back up, it suddenly flew away to the opposite direction. I was paranoid and went back to my friend's place. I stayed in the whole summer without going out. It later ended. After the summer experience, I got very sick, and my parents asked a shaman to perform a ceremony for me. The shaman said that my housemates were not humans. I was lucky to be alive because my spiritual guides protected me. The shaman said that the ghost was not careful, and that was why I saw his true form of a cat. He confirmed that the ghost sent the lady in a white gown and crow to find me, but my tools I carried were too strong to be defeated. The tools that I carried were the Buddha necklace and the black, white, and red strings that I wore. I was recommended to not bring up their names. Out of curiosity, I Googled their names. Salvador's real name came out of Google and showed that he was a former UC Merced student who passed away a few years ago. I was not living with humans. I was living with ghosts. This was a scary experience, and I hope that no one encounters this situation. Choose your roommates wisely before you move in with them. Do not live with people without any social media. Don't live in a cheap place. Take care of your health and do not let the evil spirits take your beautiful souls. If you are a Christian, carry a cross necklace. If you're a shaman, carry Jaws papers and wear those black, white, and red strings. Alright, wait, I have a question. What about that roommate Joe or whatever that goes back to his hometown? Like, what happened to him? Plus, they never really explained why the ghosts and the evil spirits were doing bad things to them. Like, okay, maybe you have some weird roommates that just really like owls. Like, I know some Hmong guys who really like anime and they hang up posters of animes. They have anime body pillows. But does that mean they are devil worshippers or something? No, they just like Naruto a little too much. So this story is a little weird, but pretty cool nonetheless.